Hello, everyone. It's that time of year again. We are done with a new month, and it's time to talk about the pieces of lost media that were found. We got about the same as last month. February is still so far the biggest month of the year, even though January had the find of the year so far. Well, one of them. But yeah, I digress. April was still a bit quiet, but not terrible. We still got some interesting finds. So, yeah, let's get started. Here's the lost media found in April of 2026. First up is Where's My Mickey? Where's My Mickey is a puzzle mobile game that was released in 2013 and a spin-off of another popular mobile game created by Disney, Where's My Water, which if you were in the early 2010s, you probably recognize the name of that game. I used to play it all the time. I used to play it quite a bit as a kid. I didn't play this Where's My Mickey, but I digress. Like Where's My Water, you have to create a path for the water to get to the goal, and if you don't do it the right way or the water completely evaporates, you'll fail the level. However, it was released for iOS and Android and featured the characters in the 2013 Mickey Mouse cartoon art style. However, in 2017, Disney delisted the game because after the servers had shut down. Because all of its DLC, which included Goofy chapters and The Menace of Venice, this required an in-game server download that no longer functions. It was inaccessible for years. That was until April 1st of this year when a user named Shadow Knight found a fat APK version of the game. Unlike standard versions, it contained all DLC assets bundled in the file, which making it playable without Disney servers. Dracula epilogue scene. Dracula is a 1931 horror film based on the 1924 play of the same name released by Universal, starring Bela Lugosi as Dracula and Edward Van Sloan as Van Helsing. It's regarded as the film that basically turned Dracula into a pop culture icon. During the initial theatrical run of the film, it featured an epilogue by Sloan. Where he said this to the audience, similar to how the prologue of Frankenstein happened, saying, quote, "Just a moment, ladies and gentlemen, a word before you go. We hope the memories of Dracula and Rainfield won't give you bad dreams, so just a word of reassurance. When you get home tonight and the lights have been turned out and you are afraid to look behind the curtains, or you dread to see a face appear at the window, why, just pull yourself together and remember that after all, there are such things." When the movie was reissued in 1936, the Motion Picture Code, which was a company which worked to censor films in order to keep certain morals, was being taken really seriously. So it was removed to remove anything that would be offensive to religious groups, and was never really restored anywhere. Though a few stills and a brief clip were featured in a 1999 documentary, Road to Dracula. In September of 2021, The director of the documentary, David J. Scull, was contacted by the Loose Leaf Celluloid podcast and asked about the state of the footage. He said that the Universal acquired the only known copy of the sequence from the British Film Institute in the late 90s. Because it featured several raggedy jump cuts and is missing portions of its soundtrack, the quality control people at the company deemed it completely unusable and would not let it be used in its entirety. However, on April 1st, a Vimeo user named Rayfaiola, I think I say that, posted the entire epilogue scene to the site from a 16mm silent print. The final line recovered from The Road to Dracula was added on, however, the rest is replaced with an AI audio. And he says that he's currently working on restoring the audio. So until we do get the audio, we do have the epilogue scene, just with a mostly different audio track. But yeah, something from 1931 getting found, probably one of this year's highlights so far. Zorby. This was another iOS game that was lost. This one released in 2013 by French indie developers Etienne Perrin and Simon Perrin, and published by Game Atelier. Being described as a mix between the block breaker and shmup genres, not sure what that latter one is, it follows the titular protagonist who escapes from prison and starts throwing his axe at birds so he can eat them due to his hunger. Not much is known about the development, but it was at development as early as 2012. Posting two videos as the creator started posting videos about it to his YouTube channel around that time. This game didn't receive much attention when it was released, with the only known review of the game being one by on Arcade Sushi. She praised the reviewer Katrina Hill says that she praised the simple but effective gameplay and zany nature, but criticizes the controls for being imprecise. In 2014, the game was delisted from the App Store. No one knows what date it was, but Etienne Perrin stated that the game was delisted due to him not being able to have the time or technology to keep up with the iOS updates. Though the titular character of this game was later used in a fighting game called Indie Pogo, and is still playable to this day. The only thing available for a while were some gameplay videos and a trailer. However, on April 11th, a user named Andy_C83 discovered he had an old iPhone that had the game downloaded with some DLC installed. And with the help of some others, it was made available and posted to Internet Archive. Now, Bunny Maloney. So Bunny Maloney is a French CGI animated series that aired in 2009 based on the Flash animation in Pinpin le Lapin Lac des Robes Jaunes, focusing on the everyday lives of three dysfunctional roommates, Bunny, Kenny, and Jean-Francois. When their lives get disrupted, they suit up as the Protect Team and pilot their giant mech, the Bunny Ganger, to foil whatever plan the unintelligent Debilou Man has in store. The show is probably well known for its sort of adult-leaning content in a kids show, maybe because it was based on something that was made for a more adult audience, but I digress. You can find a few videos on that. The show, as well as the original show, it also had a UK-based English dub, which aired on Kix in the UK and Kabillion in the US. While the French episodes were available to find and is available on Apple TV Plus, in the French version at least, the English dub had been very hard to find. While some fans had episodes, it would be starting in September of last year, a YouTube channel named Bunny Maloney English Official, which was owned by Mediatoon, who just currently distributes the series, started uploading clips of the English episodes. They would upload more English episodes until the last one, made for TV, was uploaded on April 11th this year. Now there's alongside the English dub and French versions, there's also some 13 music videos, only 3 of which have been found, with one being mostly intact. So that's partially lost, with the other 9 being lost in their entirety. So that includes 10 music videos that have yet to be found in full. Who knows? Maybe one day they'll be found. Moonchild Amiga port. Moonchild was an early '90s game that was planned to be released on the Amiga, but ultimately ended up being released on the PC. Developed by Team Hoy. Before being into a PC game, it was, as I said before, it was planned for the Commodore Amiga. The story is too long for me to get into, but I'll just say that the lovely team that Games That Weren't were able to get a copy of it and post it online. So, yeah, if you ever wondered what this game is, now you can check it out. Rail X Rail train set. Man, this month has been a blast for iOS games, because this is already the 3rd one I'm talking about on this video. Anyway, in the first quarter of 2013, a game titled Rail and Rail Train Set, I think that's actually how you pronounce it, was released on the iTunes App Store by Loy Enterprises. It was based on an extremely versatile editor. You could basically, and from what I can tell, the game is basically one games where you could basically create your own train set. And it was notable for using an engine called Cocos 2D. It actually lasted for a few years before, in 2017, when because of an iOS update, the engine Cocos 2D broke. it would greet the player with a black. Opening the app then would cause it to come to a black screen, which was then delisted from the App Store after this. Thanks to some dedicated fans, some pieces of the game were found. Then on April 12th, Chipped Tooth Entertainment uploaded the last known video, build_train.mp4. Then 6 days later, on April 18th, a user named The Tuned Loon granted permission from Mark Loy, one of the people involved in the game, to upload the IPA version of version 1.1.5 to the Internet Archive. This version, however, has all of its DLC locked, so unless we get a version that has the DLC, this is the closest we have. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon The Miracle 4D Moon Palace Chapter Deluxe. Now, this is one of two Japanese animated theme park attractions made for Universal Studios Japan. The first one, The Miracle 4D, was released in 2018 based on the popular anime Sailor Moon. Like most theme park attractions in 4D, which for those who don't know, it's a experience similar to 3D but with added seat motion. While the run ended later that year in 2018, a second version was released. Lux in 2019, then, which is a sequel to one was later in 2022. This version would later be found in April of 2020, on April 24th, as it was shown at Universal Studios Hollywood, part of the Universal Fan Fest nights of this year. So, yeah, the main show is still lost to this day, but it's nice to see any of these things get found. Then finally, the Quake Dreamcast port. I'm sure most of you know the game Quake, but for those who don't know what it is, it was a game first released in 1996 for the MS-DOS and Windows, and later the Mac OS, Linux, Sega Saturn, and Nintendo 64. And it's one of the many games developed by the legendary John Romero, who eventually released East, one of the worst games of all time, and one of the most disappointing of all time, Daikatana. Anyway, Quake was released in the late 90s and was planned to be released on the Sega Dreamcast. And was planned to be released for the Sega Dreamcast. But according to Jason Lee Steer, the founder and CEO of Titanium Studios, it was actually completed in only around 9 days. But on April 29th, a user named Axel Thunder dumped the game on the Hidden Palace. However, it says that you can only go down one place further than you're supposed to in the main options menu, with selecting basically crashing the game. So it's not completely playable, but hey, it's something. Yeah, and that's about it. Not much, but hey, we got some interesting finds. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Hope you will see me in the May stream, as that'll be summer and I'll be I'll be done with my college semester this year. So yeah, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye.